Our last speaker is Allison Peck, co-founder of Cure VCP Disease. And would you like to go ahead? All right.
So when we were talking about this conference, we kind of didn't, we asked the patients and the families, what do you want to talk about? And so we polled everybody. And it was ranged from everything to, we want to learn about the research and science, to, I just want to party. So we went around and we were saying, how are we going to weave this together into something that's not hodgepodge? And so we came up with the theme, empowering our patients with hope, our community with hope, not just patients, because it's a community. And so one of our conference planning committee meetings, we had a lot of them. A lot of them. Nathan recommended that we meet weekly. So 13 weeks of meetings. But they were good. And about a couple weeks in, it was just me, Brandon, and Amy. And they're like, what are we doing here? And I kind of explained my vision for it. And so I said, well, let me just share something that I wrote. I was kind of pushed to write it. It was an assignment from one of our CZI activities. It was a requirement that we wrote this, and I did not want to write it. So I'm going to have to read it. So, I am a mother, a wife, an engineer. In other words, I solve problems. That's my calling. Whether it's in the workplace, at home, or the community, I like to be in the middle of it and make stuff happen. My world came crashing down when my husband received the genetic diagnosis from Dr. Kimonis that he had tested positive for a gene called VCP. We knew that it meant his mother, who had just died from the symptoms of VCP disease. Over the past 20 years, we had seen her lose her ability to walk, feed, and care for herself due to muscle wasting. She was in pain from pageants. And she didn't receive treatment. So she would only let her husband move her from a lift chair to a power wheelchair because of the risk of fractures and bone pain. We were always worried that she would have the risk of developing dementia that would steal the last quality of life that she had. We had also seen, struggles his parents had in getting the proper care, going from doctor to doctor and having to educate everyone about this rare disease that had no treatment. This diagnosis was going to change our life. My husband was in his late 30s, a go-getter in his career, a very active father with our 3 young boys. I had prepared myself our entire married life that this might happen. I was not scared of taking care of him. What made me paralyzed was the lie that I had been told my entire life, that there was nothing that I could do. There was no treatment or cure, so why bother? My problem was that my strong, capable husband was going to slowly lose his ability to function, And there was nothing I could do about it. I had a hard time of coping with being powerless in this situation. My husband and possibly our children were going to suffer the same fate of my mother-in-law, and I could do nothing. Now, I wish that I could tell you that I immediately jumped into searching for a rare community and a cure for VCP disease. I did not. My husband and I took this awful diagnosis and the terrible lie that there was nothing that we could do, and we buried it for years. We tried to focus ourselves on just surviving. We built walls around ourselves, and we poured ourselves into just kind of doing things for our local community to distract us. When asked to do something physical, like coach Little League or help a friend move, my husband would blame being too busy at work or a back injury, a knee injury. We had to ask our 12-year-old to help me when there was a leak in the basement. And then he's, why is Dad not helping? I took my 3 boys to a Cub Scout camping trip without him because he couldn't hike the 1/4 mile to the campsite. These might seem like little things, but they were huge because these were the things that my husband wanted to do for his family and the community, but he couldn't do. It wasn't until 2-3 years later that we came out of hiding when Dr. Camones had the possibility of the phase 2 drug trial with the VCP inhibitor, but funds were needed. We finally had hope that there was something we could do. So we shared our secret with the world and started fundraising. Our friends and family rushed in with their support and encouragement. We raised about $20,000. Unfortunately, the drug trial never happened. But this exercise gave us hope and a glimpse that there was a place for patients and families to make a difference. A friend of ours whose children had a rare disease encouraged us to start a nonprofit advocacy group with the goals: organize and find the patients, create a registry, fund and direct research, build a community, support others. We're like, what? We can't do that. I look back at where I am now on this rare disease journey and wow. Little did I know the power of patient advocacy. Little did I know what the community could bring. Little did I know that patients could influence and direct change in rare disease. That is what we are doing now. We found patients and families just like us. We found inspiration from other rare families fighting just like us. There is something we can do. Share your story. Share our story. Join us, and together we can make a difference. We need you. So that's my elevator pitch. So anyway, that's my side of it. I probably didn't tell you anything that you didn't hear from those fabulous panel and from the opening my husband has. He starts it, I finish it. But rare disease affects families. So let me see, where's the clicker? let me redirect. I'm not going to be too long. That was most of it. Do you have the slides up? Okay. Okay. So my kind of thought was to recap, because we've gone through a lot these last 2 days together. A lot has been thrown at you. And I wanted to maybe kind of just recap that you don't have to do everything that's been presented to you today. But maybe you could take one thing. So this slide is our journey. It was not a diagnostic odyssey, but an odyssey for purpose. We went from there is nothing you can do to dealing with a diagnosis, to uniting the patients, to driving the research. There is always something you can do. Where we were 4 years ago to where we are now. 4 years ago, we have no treatments. We still have no treatments. We had no care guidelines. We have published care guidelines. We had no patient support. Now we have a strong patient community. We have family histories of struggles with people getting appropriate care. Now we have educational information for y'all. There was no VCP research forum. They were working on it, but they weren't together. Now they are. There were no clinical trials. Now we have several clinical studies. To the point it's probably exhausting the heck out of y'all. I recognize that. I do, because it's asking a lot of you. Cures. How do we get there? We're here. We want to get there one step at a time. Maybe 3 steps at a time, working in different directions as we build our team. So I did want it. Girls, can y'all hand these out? Okay. So if you've participated in the nationwide study, I've already mailed you one of these. Y'all probably thought it was kind of cute. I developed these 2 years ago for a patient conference that got canceled because of COVID. I thought this is a way to help me process, because we started wanting a cure. And then with the help of Jeannie, that she's like, you can't just focus on the research. Our patients need each other. So it's kind of like 2 sides of a coin, right? Which one do you need both of them. So we'll walk through it together. You don't have to read it. I'm going to have it up here. So I'm going to start with take control of your health, because we want to start with you, because your health has to come first. So when we created this a few years ago, the first is find a doctor that will listen to you. We didn't put on there, find a doctor who knows about VCP disease. Just find a doctor who will listen and is willing to learn. We didn't have a care guidelines when I printed these. 2 years ago. But now we do. We've been talking about self-care, wellness, therapy. That's important, but it's also personal. So just kind of process. You need to do what's right for you. Find a support group. We're here, but there's also local. You need both. You need people in your town, but we're here too. Plan for the future. You're going to have to make some lifestyle changes with a rare disease. And this isn't on the card. I added that. I kind of cheated. Learn as much as you can do about VCP disease, because you're going to have to self-advocate. As much as it stinks in rare disease, you have to. And then the flip side of it is join us in accelerating the cures and treatment. You're here today, so I'm preaching to the choir. But maybe you can use this to help your families, your messy, complicated families. Your rare disease community needs you. It stinks. Yeah, we need you. The first step, the most easy step, is to complete the patient registry. That's the numbers that will drive pharma companies to develop those treatments. They're looking at that first. How many people are in your registry? And that is a yes or no whether or not a company is interested in working with us. So that's the messy part about you talking to your families if you're already in the registry. And you also it becomes a natural history study if you update it every year. We haven't been updating it every year. It takes 20 minutes. It's the same questions over and over and over, but it's important. The next step is just to participate. Just post on a comment that is supporting your rare community. Being here today is supporting your rare community. Oh, did I flipped the questions. Share your story. That is our weapon. I was talking to Katie, and she's like, I wish, it's like VCP disease is a piñata, and I want to hit it. And I was like, well, you know what your stick is your story. That story is going to move mountains. Fundraise. Even, hey, if it's selling bracelets, even if it's only a couple of dollars or whatever, it's building awareness. I mean, we found Amy was sold some bracelets 2 years ago. She pulls them out and she goes, jackpot. There were like some quarters in it. And she's like, I raised money for VCP disease 2 years ago. Here it is. We're like, that's awesome. But the act of having people you care about give to you, it's rewarding to them and it's rewarding to you, and it generates research interest, and it provides where we like to apply our dollars are where nobody else is. Those things that are being not funded by the NIH or whatever, those critical steps that only we can kind of provide with the kind of the no strings attached, make a difference in a young investigator's career. And then participate in research. Oh, I have an arrow. Nathan said, Community plus power equals hope. That's where we were, and this is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for these last 2 days. It's been amazing seeing all of these faces that I knew names, but I've never met most of you in person. And so it's been great spending time with you, listening to different sessions, having meals. And so we're thankful that the time and energy that you've taken to come here, and we appreciate it very much. So as we go, we want to make sure that these aren't just 2 days where we're connected, that we continue to be connecting throughout the year, the rest of the 365 days. And so you can do that through our website. We have, like we mentioned before, happy hours where you can connect with VCP patients from across the country and across the world, Brazil, Australia, Europe. So as well as many other resources are available on our website. Sign up for our newsletter. That always has great information on it. It's always updated. And so that's the best first place to get the newest information. And so, yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to mention, Allison?
I just thought of this. At our registration table, we have a ton of extra resources, okay? Please, because otherwise we're going to have to mail them somewhere. But we printed those, especially the blue sheets that are summaries of the standard of care. We want you to have as many copies of those as possible to give out to as many doctors or family members you want to. So please pick those up. We have 500 of these folders. So if you want to take a few, build a packet for yourself to give to friends, family members, to help you in build an awareness and just letting people know about us. Please take them.
You all can join us. And if you have any questions, feel free to email info@curevcp.org. And thank you. Just thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.